All right, hi everyone. Welcome to another FEMTalks series. My name is Amy and I'm the VP of Outreach. I'm here today with my director, Sarah, and we're joined by the lovely Dana Buxcey, here to talk more about her story and some of her career insights. So Dana, I would love to hear more about you and just to tell us all a bit more about yourself.
Sarah and Amy, thank you so much for having me. My name is Dana Buxcey. I'm a strategist and acting account operations manager for marketing, advertising, branding, and web development firm. So professionally, I bring about 10 years of experience between both corporate and agency environments. I've held positions in consulting, communications, public relations, issues management, marketing. If it involves coming up with a plan, executing strategy, driving insights from data and optimizing, then I've probably worked with it. Academically, I have a degree in economics with a minor in professional writing, journalism, and publishing. I'm a certified product manager, and I'm currently finishing my project management professional designation.
It sounds like you've had a long list of stuff you've done. And what would you say are the factors that contributed to the success of your career?
Okay, so this is something I actually get asked quite often. So what it really comes down to for me has definitely been having grit and having guts. So what I mean by this is if you can find a way to work smart, work hard, and be passionate and persevere, and if you have the fearlessness to say yes because you want to learn and you're not afraid of failing, then you can really carve out a path for yourself, even if your actions aren't necessarily intentional towards a specific title. So I quite often talk about, not having a niche, but it's also important to remember that I never planned to not have a niche. I thought by this time I'd be inspired and motivated by one thing, but I've found a lot of my professional strengths have actually come from liking a lot of things and being passionate about many things and being excited to learn. So I found a lot of professional success by being gritty and being gutsy. So when it comes to not having a niche, the thing is I have a Jill of all trades kind of approach. So in a world full of nichers, Jill of all trades is being confident and competent in many different endeavors, having knowledge about various fields. And it's definitely given me better problem solving insight and abilities in unprecedented situations. So in today's competitive world, my Jill of all trades advantage is because I'm confident, nimble, and proficient in whatever skill I'm trying to learn or tout.
Thanks so much for sharing. So you talked a lot about what factors contributed to your success. We'd love to hear more about what you think are the best general qualities that anyone can bring to the workforce. I guess like no matter if they're in marketing, consulting, finance, whatever the workforce may be.
Yeah, of course. Such a great question. So kind of taking the approach just to what I tell my mentees and to what I tell coordinators and interns that I get to work with. So integrity and communication and ownership and accountability are probably the two most critical components of your career, at least based on my experience. So having integrity, it really means that you live in accordance to your deepest values, you're honest with people, and you keep your word. When you can communicate open and honestly, you build trust with and tend to cultivate deeper working partnerships with your colleagues than if you didn't. Integrity and communication really tie into ownership and accountability. So when you tell the truth and you're open, people tend to respect you and they want to work with you. When you're accountable for your actions and accountability is a core value that you preach, blame isn't shifted and trust with your team is never lost. So accountability really breeds trust among your team. And when mistakes are owned and they're corrected, value is really added to the partnerships that you create with your colleagues and with the people that you're working with.
Thank you for that. Those are really incredible values you mentioned. And I had a question. So, what would you change about your university experience if you were to go back and restart?
That is such a good question. So as a product manager, and I posted about this today, you're going to realize that a lot of times like nothing goes according to plan. So if I went back, I would probably continue along with engineering just as how I had wanted to start. So when I first went to university, I did want to become an engineer. The reason I say I would go back and change that is because I really enjoy the foundations for how things are built. And I think enjoying the foundations for how things are built, it applies to building relationships. It applies to building a home. It applies to building a business. It applies to building friendships. I'd probably go back and do that. I'd also focus a lot more on the courses that I really, really genuinely love. So I look at the amount of writing courses I got to take, and I wish I'd gotten to take more, because kind of as we've come out of the pandemic and we're really in this like digitally strong area, content writing and copywriting, communications are so incredibly valuable. And it's how so many people build their business and live their lives. So I'd probably do engineering. I don't know that I would be an actual practicing engineer, but I do think it's a really important degree to have for building things. And I would definitely take some more communications classes and writing classes. And, I actually would encourage anyone in any type of a degree to take some sort of communications or writing course, just because being able to communicate written information is critical to being able to excel with colleagues and with clients and careers.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. I think as the perspective of actual university students right now, it can be quite difficult to try new things. So I love that you're preaching taking all these different classes and initiatives. And I guess, again, as a university student experience, was there anything that you felt was a really large setback in your career, and how did you pick yourself up from it and keep going?
So I think that something I've learned is that in the moment, things really feel like setbacks. But when you take time and you have a little bit of space between them, they aren't setbacks. So I love talking about failures. This is actually my comfort zone. From failure, I've definitely learned resiliency, and I've learned to overcome failure. And the capacity to overcome failure is truly resiliency, and understanding your depth of mental toughness and how that propels you through life and through work. Failure can teach you lessons, teaches you to be stronger, keeps you grounded and humble. And it also really provides the potential for innovation and opportunity. For me, I built a business a couple of years ago, and kind of building this business, I had a partner and we were building the business together, and it was really, really difficult. And eventually the business, failed. We didn't know how to scale. We didn't really know how to make money or revenue or margins. We didn't know the competitive advantages we had. We didn't really understand our competitors. So from failing that major business, what I've learned is, research your competitors, understand your margins, know your worth, know what you can charge, know the industry, the space that you're in. If you don't want to have a niche, who are you going to go for? Who are you going to approach? What companies are you going to try and tackle and retain? So my piece of advice is really, when you think you have a setback, try and give yourself an arm's length from it, and think about how you will feel about that setback 5 years from now. Because even a few years after trying to start, a business that failed, I look back and it wasn't even really a setback. It actually gave me the opportunity to propel me into the success I've found now. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit there?
Yeah, it sounds like you've had the whole journey starting from scratch again. Sounds like a huge failure to overcome. So what motivated you to quit and start from scratch? Like, what kept driving you through it?
It's a good question too. So at the end of the day, I think I definitely drive myself to excel, and I really take full ownership of whether I find success or whether I am facing failure. But the underlying inspiration behind my drive to really continue and excel are my mom and my sister. So they're definitely my biggest motivators. Growing up, I was raised by a single mom. So she was and still is an incredibly strong role model in my day-to-day life. She showed me that I can make decisions on my own, be independent, confident, self-reliant. She was also my softball, my soccer coach. So she really showed me the importance of being driven and having discipline, and that it's very rare that things will ever come the first time that you try them, or that they will come naturally. It's always going to take a lot of practice and a lot of repetition. So I really try to remember that. And my sister. So my sister just has this confidence and attitude where she doesn't care what other people think. And that is really, really difficult for me. And in in being an employee or being an entrepreneur, you really can't care what other people think, or you have to be able to, you know, put a little bit of space into caring what people think. So I've really tried to look at my sister and take that same approach, the same confidence and the attitude that she has. She doesn't care what other people thinks. So I try to take that into account.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we can all kind of learn a bit from that and just kind of block out the noise and focus on us. And speaking of like focusing on ourselves, we were just curious as to after such a successful career that you've had so far, which has been relatively short still, what's kind of next for you? What's in the big picture? What are some things you hope to accomplish in the long term versus just right now?
Oh, I love this question. It's so awesome. So I mean, in terms of like 5-year plan, 10-year plan, I would love to be able to have 7 different streams of income, whether that be investing in properties, having a product that's on the shelves, having a secondary service to my actual like full-time 9-to-5 job. I would love to be able to do more schooling, do an MBA, or take some more product management classes, or even some leadership courses. I would love to spend much more time mentoring other people. I would love to be able to volunteer with kids that have had, you know, were raised by a single mom, or I'd love to volunteer with people that perhaps had some setbacks when they were kids. So that's definitely in the future for me. In terms of just short term, my partner and I are actually working on bringing a product to market later this year. We're looking to start a kombucha company here in Alberta. So that's going to be keeping us busy, really perfecting the recipe.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never personally tried kombucha before, but I'll definitely look out for it once that gets released. But I would just like to conclude it here so we don't go too much over time. But thank you so much for just speaking a lot about your wisdom and experiences that you've gone through in your career and your personal life, Dana. It's been really helpful for Sarah and I, and I'm sure our Booster Network. We really appreciate hearing, honestly, just words of wisdom and so much honesty coming from you as a speaker. Um, yeah, I would just like to say thank you again for being here. And we can wrap up the Booster Talk here.